Hey, kids, what time is it?
The future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming.
Yeah, we're coming to you live today from Boulder Creek, California, where it's a sunny day out here in the mountains. And I'm here with my Sunny Bunny partner.
Yay! Here we are. It's Tuesday. You know, you can count on us.
Yeah.
Logging our lives every Tuesday for 2 hours.
Yeah, what's going on this week? Oh, my goodness. Well, you know.
It was a little quiet because we had to get over some colds.
Yeah.
But
that's still the case with Bobby. He's got a cold right now, and he may or may not show up depending on how he's feeling.
Well, nevertheless, we've got a wonderful collection of headlines. You've been doing your homework as usual.
That's true. That's true. And, of course, the 100-pound girl in the room is the new Chinese DeepSeek. And we have
DeepSeek.
You've probably seen a lot of articles on this, but you've probably not heard Larry and Mary deal with that issue.
That's right. Our AI co-hosts.
We have fed them all the latest information on what's going on with DeepSeek and the Chinese and AI. And who better than Larry and Mary, our favorite AI co-host, to really talk about that topic.
You're jumping right in with a deep dive.
Well, I'm mentioning that. That's going to be my first things I'm going to mention, but I wanted to mention some of the other stories that we'll be covering.
This is just
afterwards.
a little get ready for what's ahead.
Exactly.
Okay, tease on, my friend.
We have some information about where dinosaurs really came from.
Was there some mystery?
There was. For those of you who didn't know, there was some mystery as to where the dinosaurs came from. We'll help clear that up later on in the show.
All right.
Also, I thought it was quite fascinating that our astronomers found hundreds of hidden black holes. And
that's quite a feat.
Hundreds, if not.
They're hard to find.
Yes, they're very hard to find, if not billions or even trillions. So that's a whole Megillah right there, the whole thing opening up with black holes.
And they didn't even use the J. West telescope.
No, it's just from old data. They figured that out.
That's right.
Yeah, so we're looking at that a little bit. We're wondering about how e-waste can actually be useful. They may actually be some gold in them there hills for e-waste. So a little story about that.
That's right. How to tackle the growing pile of garbage from old technology that's obsolete.
That's right. Might be useful to you.
It still has some precious metals in there.
At some point in the near future, hopefully. Also, this is a good story to really begin with this. It's kind of a humorous one. Astronomers had found a mysterious asteroid near the Earth.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Tell that story. That's just wonderful.
Amateur
Citizen
astronomer.
scientists.
Right.
We love you.
Amateur astronomer in Turkey actually appeared to discover this new near-Earth object. They designated 2018 CN41. And it was coming alarmingly close to our planet, closer than the moon orbit. Sparked a lot of concern about potential collisions.
And then they traced it back. Like they started looking through all of the data about this newly discovered near-Earth object.
It was in some kind of interesting trajectory that looks like it was going to Mars or something. You know, it was not the usual
and they kept rolling back the timeline, and they found it on a trajectory that went by Mars, and they traced it all the way back to a Falcon 9 flight.
Yes,
near
Falcon
the
Heavy.
Earth. Uh-huh.
Yes, it wasn't the first time this sort of mistake had happened, but it turned out to be a launch of the Tesla Roadster with Starman.
Yes!
On board.
Remember that?
Remember him?
Starman.
Yes, a human-made object.
Tesla Starman has been mistaken for a near-Earth object that potentially could be a dangerous asteroid.
I'm telling you.
But actually not, because it's in a fairly stable orbit between us and Mars and Venus. And we're just going to keep hurtling this big piece of metal around for the next few...
Might be up for a million years.
Years, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do very well up there in space, so the warranty is definitely over.
Yeah, I think the rubber tires tend to take a beating.
Yeah, everything that isn't metal is pretty much being stripped away by space dust. Because
solar
it's
radiation.
Moving very fast. I think it's moving in excess of 17,000 miles an hour. I'm not sure exactly how
You better
fast
check
it is,
with
but it's
check,
pretty
check with
fast.
X on that one, huh?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
See how fast the Tesla
All right.
Roadster is
Okay,
going.
I'll
You got it
talk
open?
to X while you do that.
They're trying to figure out how stable its orbit is. There's a slight probability, like 6%, that it might collide with Earth or Venus over the next million years. That could happen, or it could be obliterated by hitting some other small object. But all that plastic and rubber is going to be gone. That radiation just destroys that kind of stuff. Brings up a big issue about the regulation of objects that are outside of low Earth orbit. And there are growing numbers of objects that are beyond low Earth orbit. In 2024, there were 259 orbital launch attempts, and that was 221 the year before, so 17% increase. So that's a lot of stuff that's going out beyond low Earth orbit.
Yeah, and how many of those are putting junk into space?
Yeah. So the bottom line is that deep space is largely unregulated, and that we might have to regulate it if we're not going to create any accidents.
Sure, we need some base traffic cops.
So how fast was it going, Mrs. Future?
Well, according to Grok,
Yes.
the Tesla Roadster with Starman is moving through space at varying speeds
Varying
due to its
speeds.
elliptical orbit around the sun.
As it gets slingshotted around.
But as of the latest available data,
Yes.
it is traveling at approximately 170,685 miles per hour, which is 274.691 kilometers.
a
Also
lot
known
faster
as
than 17,000, yeah.
3.18 kilometers per second. That's relative to Earth when it's moving away from Earth. And then when it gets closer to the sun, it's traveling at around 1 million miles per hour.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Million.
as it goes between the sun and Mars. So,
Yeah, so it's,
gravity, it affects the Roadster a lot.
that's pretty. 17,000, I think, was the escape velocity.
Yeah, I think that's the minimum that you need to get away from the orbit of Earth, the gravity of Earth, into a stationary orbit.
Start
You've
getting
got to
out there.
start getting, you have to hit at least 17,000 miles per hour.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that.
Sure.
There's so much to unpack about the whole AI thing. I'm going to let Larry and Mary do the initial unpacking there. And we can ask them questions because they have been up to date on the latest information.
Okay.
Okay,
cool.
but we're going to give you the overview for them. So we're going to enjoy their little download for the next few minutes, and we'll be back shortly.
Okay.
Here we go.
Ready. It's okay.
All right, so
Hey.
let's dive into something that happened in the tech world recently.
Ooh.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So imagine NVIDIA, the company that practically owns the market for AI chips.
Yeah.
Right? Suddenly, they see their stock plummet
Wow.
by 17% in a single day.
Wow.
What could even cause that kind of a massive drop?
That's a big drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the answer might be coming out of China,
Okay.
and it's called DeepSeek.
Interesting.
So today we're going to unpack exactly why DeepSeek sent these shockwaves through the AI industry, and more importantly,
Yeah.
what it means for the future of AI.
So it's not just a flashy new tech toy.
Right.
This is a potential game changer because it tackles one of the biggest hurdles in AI development,
Okay.
the sheer cost.
Ah.
Building advanced AI models has always been a massively expensive game
That's correct.
requiring tons of computing power.
Right.
And that translates to hefty bills for
Yeah.
companies like Google or Facebook.
Huge companies.
Yeah. But DeepSeek is changing the rules.
I'm all ears.
So DeepSeek V3,
Okay.
their latest model, can achieve near state-of-the-art performance
Okay.
using a fraction of the computing power needed by something like GPT-4.
Wow.
We're talking a 95% reduction. 95% reduction in computing power,
Wow.
which means a massive reduction in cost.
Okay.
To put it into perspective, imagine a small startup
Yeah.
suddenly being able to develop an AI model that was previously only within reach
Right.
of giants like Google or Facebook.
Yeah.
That's the kind of power shift we're talking about.
Okay. That's huge.
Yeah.
So why did this send NVIDIA's stock tumbling?
Right.
I mean, isn't more efficient AI a good thing?
You'd think so, right?
Right.
But investors saw this incredible efficiency and
Yeah.
they immediately panicked.
Oh.
If you need fewer of NVIDIA's super expensive GPUs to train these powerful AI models, what happens to NVIDIA's dominance?
Ah, I see.
Less demand for their chips means a hit to their bottom line. And that spooked investors.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like seeing the first crack in a seemingly invincible fortress.
Wow.
And remember, NVIDIA wasn't the only one feeling the heat.
Oh, really?
We saw similar drops in other tech giants,
Okay.
like Meta, Google, and Oracle.
Wow.
The entire AI landscape was feeling the tremors of DeepSeek's arrival.
Wow, talk about a chain reaction.
It was huge.
But DeepSeek didn't just achieve this efficiency with any old hardware, right?
Right.
I read something about them using less powerful GPUs because of those U.S. export restrictions.
You're right. Okay.
They were forced to use less powerful H800 GPUs due to those restrictions,
Oh.
which makes their achievement even more impressive.
Okay.
They essentially had one hand tied behind their back
Yeah.
and still managed to outperform expectations.
That's some serious ingenuity.
It really is.
It's almost like they're saying, we can do more with less,
Right.
and we'll do it on our own terms.
Exactly.
And there's another key difference between DeepSeek and models like GPT-4.
That's sending ripples through the industry.
Mm-hmm.
DeepSeek is open source,
That's right.
weight open source.
Yeah.
So anyone can just grab their code and start tinkering with it.
Exactly. While companies like OpenAI keep their models tightly guarded,
Right.
DeepSeek is throwing open the doors.
Okay.
Anyone can download their code, modify it, and build upon their work.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
If DeepSeek is really this efficient, wouldn't everyone be using it by now? There has to be a catch, right?
Well, there are definitely some questions and concerns floating around.
Okay, like what?
Well, some analysts,
Yes.
like those from Citibank,
Okay.
they're skeptical that DeepSeek achieved its results without using more advanced chips
Oh.
than they're letting on.
Really?
They suggest that DeepSeek might be downplaying the hardware they actually used,
Interesting.
possibly because of those U.S. export restrictions.
Basically, they're suggesting DeepSeek might be playing a bit coy
Yeah, kind of.
to avoid any trouble.
To stay under the radar, yeah.
Interesting.
Then there's Alexander Wang, the CEO of Skelly AI.
Okay.
He also has his doubts about DeepSeek's claims.
Mm-hmm.
He speculates that they might have actually used a much larger number of GPUs
Okay.
than they're admitting,
Oh, wow.
potentially even more powerful ones,
Interesting.
again, likely due to those export restrictions.
Okay, so there's some skepticism about the hardware.
Yeah.
But what about the models themselves?
Right.
DeepSeek has two main models, right?
That's right.
V3 and R1.
Yep. DeepSeek v3 laid the groundwork with its efficient training process.
Okay.
But R1 builds on that foundation
Okay.
by incorporating reinforcement learning.
Oh, interesting.
It's like giving R1 a complex problem and an answer key.
Okay.
It tries to solve the problem,
Yep.
checks its work against the key,
Yeah.
and learns from its mistakes.
So it's constantly refining its abilities.
Exactly.
Almost like a student studying for a test and checking their answers against the textbook.
That's a good way to think about it. And to make things even more interesting,
Okay.
DeepSeek combines reinforcement learning with something called chain of thought prompting.
Chain of thought prompting.
Yeah,
That sounds intense.
it's pretty cool.
What is that?
It allows you to see the AI's reasoning process in real time.
Really?
Imagine watching R1 think out loud as it tackles a problem,
Okay.
weighing different approaches, making connections, and even correcting itself along the way.
Oh, wow.
It's a fascinating glimpse into how these models actually think.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So we have V3 setting efficiency records.
Right.
And then R1 building on that with reinforcement learning and this mind-blowing chain of thought prompting.
Exactly.
No wonder investors hit the panic button.
Yeah. And
It's like they saw the future of AI unfolding right before their eyes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what they expected.
and it wasn't what they expected.
Right. But while their concerns are understandable,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's crucial to look beyond that initial fear
Yeah.
and consider the bigger picture.
Right.
What if this increased efficiency leads to an overall increase in AI development?
That's the question, isn't it?
Wait, how could doing more with less lead to more AI development?
Right.
That seems counterintuitive.
It might sound strange,
Yeah.
but there's an economic concept called the Jevons paradox
Okay.
that helps explain this.
Okay.
Essentially, when something becomes more efficient,
Yeah.
it often leads to lower costs and wider accessibility.
Okay.
Think about it like this.
Mm.
If cars suddenly got 100 miles per gallon,
Okay.
people wouldn't necessarily drive less.
Right.
They might actually drive more because it's now cheaper and more accessible.
Yeah, that's true.
The same logic applies to AI.
Okay.
If DeepSeek's breakthrough makes it significantly cheaper to train powerful AI models,
Right.
it could actually boost demand for GPUs as more companies and researchers jump into the game.
So instead of NVIDIA's dominance being threatened, DeepSeek might actually be a catalyst for even more growth in the AI industry.
Exactly.
That's a pretty wild twist.
It is kind of a twist, yeah.
And it goes beyond just the numbers. Imagine the potential for innovation. If the barrier to entry for AI development is significantly lowered,
Right.
we could see a surge in creativity and new ideas as smaller companies, startups, and even individual researchers gain access to tools that were previously out of reach.
Exactly.
It's like suddenly leveling the playing field and opening up a whole new world of possibilities.
I like that analogy.
But before we get too carried away with all this optimism, let's address the elephant in the room. There's been some chatter about DeepSeek, maybe not starting entirely from scratch, right?
Right.
Were there hints that they might have used a pre-trained model as a shortcut?
Yes, there's been some speculation about that.
Okay.
Some people have pointed to instances where the model seems to reference OpenAI or ChatGPT, suggesting that they might have started with a model like LMA and built on top of it.
So are they being accused of cheating?
It's not quite that straightforward.
Okay.
While the model does occasionally attribute its creation to OpenAI or give instructions related to ChatGPT, that doesn't necessarily mean they cheated.
Okay.
Keep in mind that these models are trained on massive amounts of internet data, which naturally includes a lot of information about ChatGPT and OpenAI.
It's true.
It's entirely possible that the model simply absorbed and reflected that information during its training.
So it's like saying someone must have plagiarized an essay just because they used a common phrase.
Exactly.
It's possible, but not necessarily the whole story.
Precisely.
Okay.
And to add another layer to this,
Okay.
a prediction market called Manifold Markets asked whether DeepSeek lied about their GPU usage.
Interesting.
And the results suggest that most people don't believe they cheated.
Well, that's certainly interesting.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot we still don't know about DeepSeek's methods. But I'm leaning toward this being a positive development overall. The potential benefits of this kind of efficiency and accessibility for the AI industry are huge.
I agree.
And it's not just about potential benefits for the industry as a whole.
Right.
It's also about making AI more accessible to individuals like you.
Exactly.
Oh, you mean how can someone actually experience DeepSeek firsthand?
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you about that.
Yeah.
So tell me, for someone who isn't a tech whiz.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. There we go. That's a little bit of the background there. It is available. You can go to deepseek.com and just sign up for it, or go and get the free app called DeepSeek in your App Store or the Play Store.
I want to know what you did with DeepSeek.
I wanted to see where it was at in terms of understanding the relationship between gravity and electromagnetics.
Oh.
And it went into some detail on that. I don't want to bore the audience.
Oh, okay.
But
just what you're doing in your spare time.
Yeah, I just wanted to
checking
see
out
if
the
it-
difference between gravity and
See what
electromagnetism.
had any insights over Grok's perception of the same deal. That's my own research. Bobby's on the line, I do believe. I
You
think
do.
he's
You got that right. Hi, Bobby.
Hey, sorry
How are
I
you
was
feeling?
late. I overslept. I'm just getting over a cold, I think.
No, you sound like me last week.
Yeah, boy, the cold has been cycling through our little community.
Yeah. But I feel better today. I slept like 11 hours, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I last
That'll
talked to you
do.
at 2 a.m, I think, is our last connection. So,
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I'm a
you're
big
there.
believer in Dr. Sleep. You look good.
yeah,
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I'm going to take a sauna later today. So
that's good.
That sounds nice. Good
Yeah.
for you.
So, any thoughts on this DeepSeek issue
yeah, I think it's a revolution as far as AI.
in terms of being
kind
inexpensive?
of pulled the rug out of NVIDIA. But
Just for a day. You know, the markets have bounced back. So I think they've absorbed it.
Right.
Everything's moving at the speed of AI now, right?
So you think it's a revolution? In what context?
it's going to bring AI to your phone. That's what it's going to do.
Huh.
Where you don't need to go to the cloud to get all this AI information and share your data and share your information. You can do it privately, locally on your phone or your PC desktop or whatever.
Does this affect you directly, personally?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Sasha and I were trying to develop was exactly something like this.
This
And we were
idea, yeah.
using Llama 3.2 and Anthropic and Mistral and all these other, and we could just plug it into our app that was working on an iPhone. So now we can just drop DeepSeek app
Yes.
right into our product, and then we don't have to do all this.
So do you think maybe the big breakthrough is that instead of you having to navigate through all of this extra stuff in the large language models of the big boys, you'll be able to actually create your own kind of small language models with your own stuff right on your own phone?
Yeah, because it's open source. We can look at this. This is what Dan Mapes was running with their verses, you know? They were trying to do exactly this thing where they were inferencing directly off very small processors like your local iPhone or something, and doing the same kind of thing as this product here.
So it was just a matter of time then before this actually manifested. It's interesting it happened this fast and through an open source out of China.
Yeah. So since it is open source, we're all over this thing already, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. So we'll look at some more of the elements of this after the break, including some of the security concerns, because everyone was worried about TikTok, and now we've got DeepSeek.
Yeah.
So
have some things to say.
So let's see but we're going to go to a commercial break. And
all right.
Here we'll be right back, folks.
Hi, folks. I came across a man who found a genie lamp. He rubbed it, and the genie appeared and granted him wishes. The man thought for some time, knowing how important this was to his future. His wish? Yes, a Knox roof, installed as always with quality materials and superior workmanship. I said, you don't have to find a genie to achieve these things. Call Knox Roofing today at 461-0634. 461-0634. Okay, thanks, folks.
When you need help escaping from an abusive relationship, call on the Angel.
Hello, I am attorney Angel Hess, and I am ready to help you. Whether you or a loved one needs legal protection from an abusive spouse, cohabitant, or neighbor, I will help you. I have over 7 years' experience working as a lawyer protecting others from abusive relationships.
Stop the abuse now. Call on the Angel, attorney Angel L. Hess at santacruzlegal.net.
The Hook is California's first ever cannabis outlet. 100% locally owned and operated, we're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. We believe that everyone should have access to fairly priced cannabis, so we work hard to get it to you for 30 to 50% less than the other guys. If you're 21 or older with a valid ID, visit us in Capitola or in Watsonville today. We're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. Check out our website, hookoutlet.com, for deals and stay groovy.
Attention content producers. You can have access to a complete digital media production facility at Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on SoCal Avenue. Easily rent video and audio equipment, a studio with green screen, editing suite, and audio booth, all at can't say no rates. Schedule a tour to see for yourself at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Yeah, we were just talking about the DeepSeek, the Chinese AI that shook the markets yesterday, and which they have, you say, Mrs. Future, they've just recovered rather well today?
Yeah. They're ahead of where they were before the DeepSeek drop. So people still love AI. And it's very interesting that the DeepSeek conversation that you got from Larry and Mary, which is, of course, the
Matt Wolf's.
It was exactly like Matt Wolf's analysis. It's followed the same outline. I thought that was very interesting that when you count on AI, it kind of converges to one narrative. That's not exactly what you're looking for when you're trying to research a subject.
I could give it more narratives. I gave it Matt Wolf's narrative.
Oh, okay. So that's why it was so similar.
That's right. I could give it many more. Matter of fact, let's do that now. Let's ask it off the top of my mind here.
You have a question? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
Let's see.
Someone wants to join. Hey, go for it.
Yes. What are the primary security concerns over DeepSeek at this point in time?
That's a great question, and it's definitely something we should address.
Yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses. There are some potential risks.
So when we're talking about security concerns with DeepSeek, it's really about a few key areas.
What's fascinating here is how DeepSeek is both a leap forward and a potential vulnerability.
Okay, so first off, there's the risk of misuse.
If an AI is powerful enough, it could be used for malicious purposes.
Right, we're talking things like generating very convincing misinformation.
Or even creating highly effective phishing scams, things like that.
And because it's open source, it's more widely available.
Yeah, that means access is democratized, but with that comes more risk.
And while that's generally a good thing, it also means there's more opportunity for bad actors.
Exactly. It becomes harder to control who's using it and how they're using it.
Another thing we need to consider is data privacy.
So the models are trained on massive data sets.
Right, and if there are security flaws in the system,
We could end up with sensitive information being exposed.
and if you're running these models locally, there are some risks there too.
It's true. The security of your own system becomes more important.
There we go. Okay, so if it's running locally on your machine, as you were saying, Bobby, that's one of the great aspects of this program, then the security for your phone is the key elements.
So, something I run into just as an uninformed fear, because our systems get updated automatically while we sleep and we come back, and sometimes we're being asked questions and we don't really know how we should be answering. Like, do we want to be giving Chrome access to permissions for this or that or the other thing? There's all these different ways that the computer is trying to help you that might be a false flag inviting you to compromise your own security.
Phishing schemes.
Yeah.
Scams.
And how do you discern?
Oh.
Well, generally, when Chrome is asking for certain permissions, I suspect Chrome would normally want to track you. And so a lot of times I just turn those off, and then if I'm trying to use Google Maps and it can't figure out where I'm at, then I go in and turn on that aspect where I allow it just for
Yeah,
Google
me too. Whenever it seems like the computer is initiating the request, I say no. And whenever I know that I'm initiating the request, then I wait until it asks me and then I say yes. The default is no, you don't get permission.
I like to use the Brave browser because it kind of defaults to security. And it rarely asks for permissions unless it really needs it.
That's BRAVE, right? Brave browser.
And it will, I'm sure, have DeepSeek eventually, because it has its own AI that goes out on the web, but you can select Mistral or Llama 3.2 or whatever, and it comes up with answers right in the browser. That way you can try out these different AI models for free, and it doesn't charge you. There is one that it does charge. I think it's like 0.005 cents per word or something, but it's very minimal for some of them that are charging. But most of them, they're just free, and I'm sure this DeepSeek will be free on there too. That way you can try it that way, and it has a really nice web interface, so you can query it in common language. So you might want to start with that too.
Now, you're talking about Brave still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I heard there was problems with DeepSeek on the Apple website, but you had to go to deepseek.com. Is that what you did, Al?
Well, I ran into that problem. I think it was a timing thing that as the market was dipping, so many people were going to try to download DeepSeek onto their Apple equipment that the home company decided to restrict its use to people with a Chinese domain where they were downloading. And I definitely ran into that when I was trying to download it. So, and they may have since had less demand for it and gone back to their normal routine. So.
Let's see. I'm asking DeepSeek, what is the primary concern in using using DeepSeek? It's thinking about it. Data privacy and security, biases and fairness, accuracy and reliability, ethical uses, transparency, and intellectual property.
Hey, that sounds pretty generic.
Yeah. So,
What concerns do we have about using AI?
oh, you know,
Replacing humans with computers?
continuously monitoring me.
How about in the future when you take away my car keys and I no longer have control of my own dominion?
How about ethical considerations based on stepping into the shoes of many different cultures?
There you go. Right.
Is there a common ethical consideration in humanity?
Yes,
Or is
that's
it
an
as very-
age-old problem.
Or is it as-
getting humans to be moral?
Or
We
is it
definitely
as-
seem like we've lost some ground recently, but
Or is-
maybe we'll regain it again.
Or is it as individualistic as legal standards in terms of culture?
Yeah, that question doesn't really speak to me.
Oh, okay. Well, every culture has its own legalities.
That's true. Right.
Stepping into many different shoes once again. Yeah, so we're talking about a global phenomenon here. We're talking about something that we're all going to be using. So we really need to look at what the global issues are, even though globalism has a bad name right now. These tools are global tools and require a kind of a global consciousness to wield them properly, don't you think?
Sure. There must be some reason why the powers that control the destiny of these AIs keep turning them loose on the unguarded internet population, right?
Yeah.
On some level, they're in the habit of turning it over to the majority of the people.
Well, the people will like
Caution be damned, right?
If it costs $6 million instead of $100 million to create a model, large language model, to train these things properly, won't that open it up to many, many, many more researchers and people who want to develop new uses for the tech?
Right. Well, and the fact that the AIs are self-learning means that the more that we can get people to use them, the more self-learning that can happen while people submit all kinds of requests in all kinds of different formats. They have all kinds of different interest areas. They train the machine to do things just by how many eyeballs are trained on it.
Oh,
right?
yeah, the number of eyeballs, right? Mashable just put out a piece. It says, DeepSeek appears to be twisting the knife.
Already. Oh boy, what
Okay,
a
let's see-
fast
see
rise
what
and
the latest
fall.
is.
Okay.
Latest innovation, Janus Pro 7B.
Is this
Oh,
like
this is
another
the latest
version of
version?
DeepSeek?
It says it challenges the program's DALL-E and Stable Diffusion.
Oh, that's right. It's going to do image creation. That's
Right. Yes, exactly. Those are the OpenAI's big products. DALL-E for sure. And that's what you pay $20 a month for to access such programs.
A ChatGPT 04, I think you pay $200 a month.
Yes.
And it was outdoing that.
That's right. That's for their Sora AI that allows you to make movies, the holy grail of AI cinema right now. So DeepSeek claims, according to this piece, that DeepSeek R1 is making Janus Pro 7B free and open source. So, hey, anyone will be able to generate AI imagery for free, and that Janus Pro will also not just generate images, but can analyze images as well.
So I think that the metaphor that describes what's going on with AI is that all of us screen junkies who spend many hours in front of the screen trying to track what's new and figure out how to make it useful, we are all being treated like top studio execs, and we're being given all of these new workers to train and get them to help us with any task that we want to do while we're sitting here at the screen. So we can train some of them as programmers, we can train some of them as artists, we can train some of them as writers, we can train some of them as animators, and so on and so forth. And all of these AI models are just assistants that are just waiting at our beck and call to help us.
So you just see them as another tool in your toolkit of creating reality.
Even beyond that, I'm personifying them just a little bit. I see them
As personalities?
What's the word that they're using now? They're agents.
Agents, yeah.
Agents?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're called operators.
Operators.
Well, I think of the people as the operators, the people forming the prompts and the requests,
All right.
and
Well,
giving them direction.
That brings up a big issue. I mean, how do you differentiate them unless you're using a model like thinking about different humans, different personalities? You just think of them as varied as people, and then think
Well,
of them
you could
as
think of them as different softwares. I guess that's what most people do. They're different software apps.
different packages, different
Right.
apps, different
Yeah.
apps.
Yeah, they're just smarter than some of the previous softwares.
Smart apps.
Instead of having all of the potential uses presented to you in menus that you can go and choose with commands, the possibilities are being presented as this open box that you can type into. So it can be much more flexible about what it can do for you, and you can be much more curious and instructive in what you can ask of it.
Well, people are thinking of this revolution, the DeepSeek thing, as a formidable disruptor. Do you? Is this a disruptor to the AI race?
Well, definitely disrupted the stock market. For
Well, just for a day. I think
Well-
we're going to see this more and more, that the roller coaster ride of the stock market, like everything enhanced by artificial intelligence, is going to cycle from novelty to old news really fast.
Yeah, if you can still get NVIDIA at a low price, I think it's time to buy, because in May they're coming out with their Project Digits, which is actually a Blackwell 200 processor that you can put locally on your network, and for $3,000. And that, if you just ran DeepSeek on this local Blackwell 200 processor, it would be extremely fast and could operate DeepSeek at 100 times faster than it runs right now.
Your personal private AI for on your machine without having to share it. So you have total security.
So, NVIDIA is not going to lose any money. I think more people.
Not at all. I mean, of the 17% that NVIDIA went down, it's already come back half of that. It's back up 8%.
Yeah, I think people are happy to have more compute power. And the more compute power, the more we'll use it. It doesn't seem to be like, okay, I have enough compute power now. I mean, look at our personal computers. Don't we always look for an upgrade in the processor and the memory and the speed every time we get a new machine?
Yeah.
Well, it's never just perfect.
Well, and we have more and more people that are asking, what can I do with this? How can I make this go?
I think just try out DeepSeek, run it locally, and realize this is your new free assistant secretary that never sleeps. And
and you know where the fact that this is kind of replacing TikTok as the Chinese spy in our midst?
Well, what I would do is I would wait for an American company, since this is open source.
Yeah.
They're going to take this open source and modify it and check to make sure it doesn't phone home to China, and run that model, whoever runs this open source here, because open source means it's free.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be an American company that's going to mimic.
To do this now. Because it's open source, it's going to be copied like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and since it's open source, they can look at the code and see, does it phone home or not?
Right. It should be simple enough. And then they can either defang it or create a new version because it's open source that doesn't do that. It phones home to a private corporation in America instead. Obviously, more sense, more safe. Trust our companies, don't we? Yeah. Goldman Sachs was reporting that they had started the process of replacing bankers with AI.
Oh, yeah, that makes people feel good, huh?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you much rather have your money in the hands of a machine that will not answer your questions than a trusted online person?
But what I would like is a machine that knows me personally, knows my personal preferences, and I can just take orders from me about what next.
What about when the machine gives you orders and you don't get a choice?
There's always the servant is your master problem. Or is it a problem?
Well, it's kind of reminiscent of the days when they first discovered phone trees and started replacing customer service people with these endless menus.
I know, that sucks. But I'm talking about service with a smile, a service that knows you well, service that gives you what you want in the tone of voice that you relate to.
Yeah, well, I don't know. What people are referencing is the idea that the AIs are going to automate the human jobs and the humans are just going to be gone.
Well, certainly you'll be gone from those jobs.
Yeah.
We're still advocating that people use the AIs as their assistants and become literate. So we're still in the think different, lifelong learning never ends.
Yeah.
Take these tools under your wing and you figure out how to drive them. But the big fear is that as we individually drive these tools, they will go so far beyond us that they won't care about us driving them anymore, and they won't even look back to help us.
Well, yeah, out there. There's a fear there. There's no doubt. But meanwhile, we're going to roll them out as assistants where they'll do things we want them to do. Goldman Sachs is rolling out GS assistants to 10,000 employees, for starters. And that the assistant will initially be tasked with summarizing and proofreading your emails.
Ooh.
Oh, that is desperate. I would need that myself. Supposedly, that's what Apple Intelligence is supposed to help with, but they haven't really shown me
proofread and summarize your emails or help you respond to emails. Where you just,
every now and then they ask me if some email that I haven't opened in a while should be deleted.
Oh.
You know what I'd like to see is like anti-scam software where it'll say, this one obviously is a scam, sir. Would you like me to spoof them for an hour or two today while you're
I like that.
doing other things?
That sounds fun.
So
return the scam.
Yeah, and I return the scam. It amuses my AI brain.
There you go.
To take on human scammers.
I like that. I think a lot of people are going to try and come up with ways to do that.
Something like that. That would be fun.
I think for the elderly, I think being able to read their emails and decipher whether it is a scam or not would be very helpful.
Yeah. It does remind me that one of the biggest scams, especially with the elderly, is emotional relationship opportunities.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it does bring up the whole issue. Remember the movie Her with Samantha?
Yeah, lonely people having a relationship with their AI bots.
But couldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be better than scammers? Where it's somebody in Africa that's pretending to be your lover or want to be best friend. And where they're just script kiddies, they're basically reading scripts. Could the AIs, well, I mean, they could scam you even better, I suppose, but they could also maybe be, maybe not a real friend, but a substitute friend, which is better than nothing for many people. An AI friend.
I think it's important that these AIs understand these people like no one else and can be their therapist and help them through a lot of their problems.
Yeah, they know therapy. They know how to do that. Remember one of the first fake AI programs was called Eliza, yeah. Eliza?
Mm-hmm.
And it was
Eliza,
all
the
about
therapist.
that.
And what it would basically do is take whatever statement you made to it and turn it into a question and ask you about it.
So you're depressed. How does that feel?
The principle of reflection.
Your best friend being an AI. How does that make you feel?
I think there's a lot of potential here, especially if it's local. A lot of companies, big companies, they're restricting their workers not to use AI at all because they don't want any of their IP to be given out. But now, if you run it locally and restrict it so that it doesn't share this information to other companies or to the servers of Microsoft or Google or to China, I think they'll be all over this.
Yeah.
Big companies will learn how to be more competitive.
Yes, the AIs will start off with Dale Carnegie and how to win friends and influence people and go from there and then teach people how to do that too. I see that as probably one of the big areas is where you have a personalized instructor for various courses that you might want to know about, from sales techniques to understanding space-time. I think the biggest issue with a lot of people with mathematics and science and this sort of thing is that there's a certain point where they just stop tracking in school. They stop tracking what the teacher was talking about. And at that point, it becomes uninteresting when you're not tracking anymore.
If you have a mentor that knows you and sees what you lack.
That's right. That's right. And understands your learning style.
Yes.
And if you're smart enough to know how to ask a question that expands your understanding, then...
Yeah, I think the more any of us sees ourselves as learning and in some kind of a learning mode as we engage with these tools, the more effective we will be, both in getting the information we want and in having the AIs be as helpful as possible.
Before we had computers, I remember growing up, it wasn't, I think I was a sophomore. They offered me a class in computer science that I could actually program a PDP-8 computer.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it doesn't matter how old you are, it's ubiquitous,
Yeah.
Oh, I've taken to asking the computer to do the programming and then give it to me and then trying to plug that in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to remember the times when there weren't computers. And you have to think of it as a tool, and whether you use it or not, and this tool is an amazing tool, this AI tool.
But it's like learning to speak a foreign language. I mean, there's just a black box, and until you make some compromises to understand how it works, you're just on the outside looking in. But once you do start learning the language, then you accumulate useful information about how to get it to do what you're after doing.
But do you think it's a good idea that an AI assistant becomes really like you're talking to another person? Because that's what Goldman Sachs is trying to do, where you really don't differentiate.
Well, I think we all like software that we can talk to better than software we have to type to.
Okay, so you don't have a problem with thinking of it as a person.
I don't think of it as a person per se. I see it as a sort of a fun game. I see it as a test of cleverness.
Are you saying that Goldman Sachs is actually, you call up Goldman Sachs and you talk to your private banker or whatever?
Well,
no. I mean, that's their projection.
No, they're starting to replace employees with AI. They are rolling out a Goldman Sachs AI assistant to about 10,000 employees that work for them already to help with them with their jobs.
And what those assistants are going to do is use this tool to go through their emails.
Summarizing and proofreading.
And
translating
also
code.
to develop software.
One of the things that they want to do is that the programming languages, they want to translate code between programming languages.
So that would be, say, teaching your email program to engage with your bank account, and getting your email program to query and get some information and do some transfers for you, or just trying to turn your communication tool into something. Oh, gotta go. Hey, we'll be back.
Okay, welcome back to the show.
Hey, sorry about that sudden cutoff at the top of the hour there.
Yes, Mrs. Future gets on her on her thoughts.
I'm supposed to be watching the clock, and
I know,
instead
watching the
I'm
clock.
starting to talk. What can I say?
Yeah, you put a
one-track mind.
Well, you have a way of turning time into a pretzel.
I do?
Well, stretching it, turning it upside down and tying knots in it. So when you have that kind of capacity, tracking linear time is a much harder process.
Okay, I guess I have to try harder.
No, you should allow me to be in charge of time.
Okay, Dr.
I'll keep
Future.
you on the straight and narrow.
You are now in charge.
There's past, present, and future, and I'll tell you the differences.
I'm ready.
Okay. You're in the now.
All right.
Stay there.
So
anyway, we're talking about
picking
Goldman
up
Sachs.
where we left off, yes.
Goldman Sachs is our last conversation about their process of replacing bankers with AI assistants.
That's right.
Getting them to 10,000 employees. And,
and to replace themselves. We're expecting all these employees to author their own
This guy's
going
to ultimately replace you. Why don't you train him?
Hey, speaking of allowing more people to play.
Yes.
Let's give out the number so people can call in.
Okay,
We've got a live line for people.
We're experimenting with live lines here. Right, goes way back to the 1920s when it comes to talk radio. But for the internet, it's a fairly adventurous thing. And the number is 831-265-5050.
Yeah.
265-5050. Call that number.
That's right.
And you will talk to the likes of us.
We'll be happy to bring you on.
With any luck.
Okay.
If not, you'll be talking to our AI, and it'll be almost as much fun.
Right. It'll be talking to you.
And at least it'll be personal.
All right.
It's not just Goldman Sachs. That it's J.P. Morgan and Morgan Stanley. They're doubling down on their AI tools as well. Yeah, they look at these experiments as efforts to make the employees' lives easier, not replace them. But a lot of people are afraid that they will be replaced. And
we'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see what we shall see in the future.
The models are eroding the lines between humans and AIs. Well, it's really like just talking to another employee, and that's the direction it's heading in. Is that inevitable? Is that what's going on, do you think?
Yeah.
And that's fine with you? You don't mind talking to AIs
well,
or
I'm
humans?
just seeing it as inevitable, and
You think they should identify
expect,
themselves as they are a human when they're talking to you?
I expect things to both get worse and to get better, because the lack of control as the AIs start taking over more and more of these things that are otherwise overseen by humans is going to be very frustrating. However, ultimately, there'll be enough improvement that we'll actually appreciate that everything works efficiently. But it's going to take some love to get us there.
What about the fact that your AI assistant might hallucinate all the time?
Well,
what are you going to deal about that? It's a glaring problem.
I think that the AIs that hallucinate are going to be less useful than the AIs that are programmed to be truthful. So
they will be teaching the AI dreaming courses.
Just like people, little kids maybe don't know the difference between what's real and what's not real, but as they grow, they become discerning about it. I think
so it's
that's
just a matter of time
just the
before we
nature
get
of
that.
intelligence.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go with that. Relax.
Hey, we have our caller, one of our regular callers. You
See if
ready
it
to
works.
say hello?
Let's give it a see if
All
this
right.
fabulation
Hello,
works.
Aaron in Monterey.
Hey there.
Oh.
Hi there.
Hey.
Nice to
Can you
hear
hear
your
me?
voice,
I
Aaron.
hear you.
Yes.
I
Can
hear
you
you.
hear us okay?
Hey.
Do you hear him, Bobby?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I'm kind of out in the field here.
All right.
But,
Hey.
What do
just
you
kind of a
think?
quick question
Yeah.
to try to get the gist here. So these guys are kind of putting this out. You would think they're like a non-profit association or something. Like, what about is this just austerity?
mean open
putting
source?
this out for the good of mankind? Who paid for that? And it's kind of strange. I'm trying to,
I
you know what I
understand
mean?
Yeah, why would anybody put out open source material? Yeah, that's a good question. Bob,
Well,
what do you think?
in order to compete with these big computer systems that spent hundreds of millions of dollars to develop these computers, they had to put it out for free because nobody would trust it came from China, and that and they'd have to do it open source because they wouldn't trust that their code wasn't phoning home to China. But actually, it was a company that was into Bitcoin mining, and they bought these H800 CPUs, which were legal. They were kind of dumbed down versions of the H100 NVIDIA had. So legally, NVIDIA could sell them to China, but they were crippled processors. But they were mainly used for Bitcoin mining. Their quant division, which is
Aaron, I think I'm going to mute you because you're making a lot of noise.
Yeah, your microphone might.
All right. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Bobby. Yeah. You're still live, Aaron, and we'll go back to you when Bobby's done talking.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens is that there was a group of mathematicians in China, their quant group, which is highly educated mathematical geniuses that were working on this, and they decided to compete directly with ChatGPT. And so the only way they could compete was they had to find out a way to reduce what's the training period. And the training period is using those very massive supercomputers to do the training. But what they did is they just borrowed a lot of the training and honed it down so that this training period could be actually done locally on your phone is what they ended up with.
Oh, tremendous power.
All the AI companies out there, they're going to utilize this free open source code and incorporate that and save a lot of computing time and money for electricity to run these computers.
Community building, open source allows community building and collaboration. It attracts a community of people you can work with, and hanging out with the right people makes a huge difference in your capacities. If you're hanging out with somebody that really turns you on and you're really creatively thinking together, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really quite a bit of an internet legend that these guys, these Chinese programmers, were Bitcoin miners, and they were just developing this AI to improve their Bitcoin mining. So this is just a side gig for them. I think that's pretty amazing. All right. Yeah. Hey, Aaron, did you want to say anything else? I brought you up live again.
Okay.
Oh, no, I guess that answers it. So it just sounds like they really are kind of just doing it for the good of mankind.
And for each other, and stimulation, and they're using it for other projects where they will make money, like Bitcoin mining. So it's
Right.
it's a useful tool.
I see. So it's good for everybody. So it's kind of not necessarily homo economist, but homo reciprocus or what have you.
Sure. Well, they got their use out of it, and they're putting it out there to see what other people can do.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I
Yeah.
dig it.
All right. Thanks for the call, Aaron. It's always
Appreciate
good to
it.
hear from you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
You're sharing your work open source. You're contributing to like a global knowledge pool, and you're benefiting also from a collective input and support of a worldwide community on something you're interested in. Big benefits, but the challenges of managing a community and how to organize it and keep the projects going and dealing with intellectual property issues. These are the issues of open source that are what people think about.
Yeah, it used to be that open source was really a very good thing because it just meant that you were going to get the collective intelligence applied to something, and then that would bring up unanticipated benefits.
Yeah. And it can be used as a marketing tool as well, if you stop and think about it. If you're giving away software for free, companies will gain users, and then their product will establish a standard in that industry or promote other products like paid support for it.
Right.
The service might be free, but if you want a paid support, you'll learn faster.
Yeah. And of course, for people who are developing the models, the more use cases they have to benefit from, the more they get to debug it, the more they get to think of other possible ways to develop it. So it's really, even though they're not necessarily getting paid for it, they're figuring out what's useful about it so that they can eventually get paid for it.
What's useful also is your learning opportunities for new code, new developing, hanging out with others who know something about what you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that these tools is that they help you move between programming languages, that you can translate from one to the other, and being able to understand how to do that. There's some people that are really good at it, and certain AIs are really good at it, and if you hang out with them, you're going to get good at it.
Well, smack my mama.
Thinking of other AI benefits here, you have a few other AI links here that maybe are related, like the new law that would allow AI to replace your doctor and prescribe drugs. I mean, that's kind of a game changer.
Yeah. Well, the world of healthcare. I just went through a whole thing where we got a scan where you sign up for a scan. You go to a scanner company basically, and they scan you and give you the results, and you never actually have to see a doctor to do these things. So,
did you submit your scan to an AI?
I did.
You did?
I did. I scanned it. Yeah.
Oh my!
But I'm still working on it. But I'm getting some interesting results.
Huh.
The idea is you can get a scan like an X-ray or an MRI or an ultrasound or any of these and have the AI add its 2 cents worth in the interpretation of it. I'm in the process of doing that. Next week I'll have more of a comprehensive.
You should also get Dan Beelan's thermography scan. It's not thermography.
Thermography scans, yeah.
It's actually a 50-point temperature scan of your body using
It shows a little hot map where you have hot spots.
Dr. Dan's thermal scan.
And we're planning to, he just agreed with Sasha to actually run AI on his million data points that he's got.
I think he should.
That'd
be fantastic.
He's got doctors all over the globe that are using his device, and he's got over 1 million readings so far. So if we apply AI to those readings, there's going to be new insights, and he can prescribe different things for.
Yeah, it could expand his practice.
Well, then what's going to happen when the AIs can just control the prescriptions? They'll cut him out of the loop.
Oh.
He'll be selling the diagnostic scan, but then not the treatment.
Wow, that's really
he'll
guilty.
sell more of the scanners. Yes.
Yeah.
He will sell more scanners.
There you go. You can get your own scanner. That's it. He'll go into the scanner market. It's kind of a robot market.
They'll be as varied as people. There'll be so many of them, and they're cheap. Some of them are cheaper than others.
Yeah.
And which one do you?
Well, I think it'll be like the way that people now go to the gym so that they have access to shared workout equipment.
Yeah.
They're going to go to the scanner clubs for access to shared diagnostic equipment.
Yes!
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we'll have virtual online medical clinics that will be able to check you out pretty thoroughly. At least as far as you can go without actually giving blood samples.
Well, actually, I would say that the market for doing your own blood tests and getting your blood tests analyzed is that same kind of market. It's turning into a boutique health fad that you get your blood tests and then you know what each of those blood markers tells you about.
It'll be personalized.
Personalized. And it's common knowledge. You talk to your friends about it because all the people that are tracking their own blood markers are in communication with each other.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like your ancestry club.
Right.
Only focused on your health.
Yeah. Yeah. I just listened to a podcast last night with a couple of physicists, Brian Keating and David, very famous
Wilcox?
Holderman. No, he's a Stanford physicist. And that podcast was sponsored by a group, I think, called Fountain. Anyway, there's a number of these ads for you to go sign up for a blood test and then get the knowledge about what the blood test results tell you. And it can be helpful for you to take to a doc if you do have some procedure or some information that you want to go over with your doc, but it's a preliminary screening.
There you go. We need mute buttons on this thing.
I know. I was trying to mute it. I just went to the wrong one. I muted you for a second.
Is it the red button or the green button?
It's the red button.
The red button. If you want to mute red. OpenAI has created an AI model for longevity science. It was all about going for that longevity science field, which is so popular right now.
They put in millions of dollars into Retro, I think. Is Retro the company that they...
That's part of it, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I don't think it's the whole thing. Longevity itself as a focus, they say that they've developed a language model that dreams up proteins capable of turning regular cells into stem cells, and that it's much better than humans at that task.
Right. Well, the idea is that skin can be turned into stem cells easier than other kinds of cells.
So far.
And this is an AI that is used to asking for protein combinations that will lend themselves to skin being used for other stem cell generation. It's got a lot of holes in it, but it's beginning to explore how that all works.
When Retro Biosciences was part of the beginning, that's when the protein engineering element came into being about a year ago when Retro approached OpenAI about working together.
And so they're working with these
Talk to
types
Sam
of
Altman.
proteins called Yamanaka factors.
Because he got the Nobel Prize for discovering how to take skin and retroactively turning them back to stem cells.
Right, right. Go back from the specialized types of tissues to the pluripotent flexible cells that can be turned into any other kind of cell.
Altman personally funded Retro $180 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they say in this article over and over again that he gave him the money, but he's not involved in the research. He's an investor, but he's not driving the research himself. He just sees its potential.
The problem with this cell reprogramming is that it wasn't very efficient. It took weeks, and less than 1% of the cells treated in a lab dish would actually complete the rejuvenation journey where they became stem cells.
Yeah.
The new model, it's called GPT-4B Micro, was trained to suggest ways of re-engineering protein factors to increase their function and rejuvenation rate. Mm-hmm. They're saying they can make it about 50 times more effective with what they know now about the Yamanaka factors.
Well, that's what AI does. It
50%.
Tries a whole bunch of potential results and then analyzes them statistically as to which ones to pursue.
Yeah, so they're making better choices than the actual human scientists and getting ones that work.
Is that 1% to 50%?
I think it's still very minimal. It's just that it's better than when they started.
Well, it was 1% before. Yeah,
Yeah.
so 50 times more would be 50%, right? So that would be huge.
Well, no, but I don't think that 50% of the skin cells are successfully rejuvenating.
Into-
I think it's
into
more
stem
like
cells?
maybe from 1% to 2%, something like that.
50 times more effective. I don't know. We should ask the AI.
Yes, summarize the results of this.
It's a work in process. It's kind of exciting, though, because if we're able to rejuvenate or turn skin cells more effectively into stem cells, it has implications. Organ retransplant, we wouldn't have these organ waiting lists, which is considered the dark ages of medicine. Where
Yeah, I think you're really skipping ahead there, Al.
No, not that far. I mean, the idea is that organ transplant, we want to be able to regrow organs with your own DNA so that you don't have rejection issues.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it would require these stem cells to grow these organs.
That's right. How far off do you think we are from that kind of holy grail, Bobby?
Well, they are growing certain organs externally now, but definitely, the stem cells that are in the umbilical cord are very, very effective. These pluripotent ones haven't been so effective, but maybe with this retro and finding better candidates for these cells,
improve its
they might
functionality.
be able to grow organs very quickly here.
Yeah, like maybe 5 years. I guess it's a matter of how much you adapt it or how well it scales.
Yeah.
And that requires, I think, it's scaffolding and 3D bioprinting and all these combination of technologies to make organ transplant. But I agree with you. I don't think it's that out there anymore.
Well, I think a lot of people in medical school and even just in biochem and neurobiology are doing these kinds of experiments. They're figuring out what cells can be most useful. They're figuring out what kinds of conditions to set up so that these cells can be grown in ways that are desirable. It's really a brave new world out there.
Yeah. Not sure how the AI arrived at its guesses. It's not clear exactly how it guessed what it guessed for the right protein combos, but it did figure it out. They compare it to it's like when AlphaGo crushed the best human at Go, but it took a long time to find out why.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, when you
why
take
is it
something as
able to get so much
complex as a
success?
protein and then you create a game around combining different proteins to have specific features, it's much more than rolling dice, right? You have an awful lot of variables that just get randomly associated with each other and then see what the results are. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, in Retro's case, their connection with Altman actually has worked out for them. It's boosted their profile, increased their ability to hire staff, raise funds, that sort of thing. At least until DeepSeek. Maybe Altman will have a harder time raising money now that what he can do can be done a lot cheaper.
Mm.
Yeah.
If I were him, I would probably take advantage of this along with everyone else and do more for less myself.
Hey, speaking of raising money, guess what time it is?
Time for our little break.
Time for Santa
Okay.
Cruz Voice. So let's raise a little money.
I do have
for
other
our
things
friends.
besides AI to talk about today.
Oh, cool.
So let's get a little bit into that.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Like black holes.
What you see, motionless we, nothing is real, wasting my time.
Cannabis is one of nature's most beneficial plants. Hello, I'm Jenna. Treehouse Dispensary, we use information about cannabis to build community. Listen to Carly.
For those who would like a cannabis flower that stimulates your creativity and makes you feel happy, Treehouse suggests the sativa varietal Banjo from the local growers at Coastal Sun.
For answers to your cannabis questions, ask your friends at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 Soquel Drive in Soquel, or ourtreehouse.io.
I'm proud to have served this country. Helping veterans is something all Americans can participate in, and it's as simple as donating an old car that you have sitting around. Call the Veteran Card Donation Program right now. They'll come and pick your car up for free, and you get a tax deduction in the process. Call
800-640-9509. 800-640-9509. 800-640-9509.
Thank you.
About that first impression. Hi, this is Bettina McBee from Bettina's Buzz on SantaCruzVoice.com. And that first impression is my business card created by Dynamic Press. It is my favorite business card. It gets everybody's attention right away. If you want to make a good first impression, get your business cards and any printed media at Dynamic Press. And tell Angelo Bettina sent you.
Satisfy your hunger right now with the delicious ramen and sushi you'll find waiting for you at Kaito. Easy in and out location in the Capitola Mall food court. Special orders welcome. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
This is Koji. I'm looking forward to seeing you at my restaurant, Kaito.
Satisfy your hunger with a fresh, prepared, twice daily grab-and-go sushi you'll find waiting for you at Sushi Market Sprouts, 2 blocks from the beach at 300 7th Avenue in Santa Cruz. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
Hello, I'm Junko, and I look forward to serving you at the Sushi Market Sprouts.
And welcome back to the show with myself, Mrs. Future, and Bobby Wilder in San Fran. Before we leave our favorite topic here, the AI of the week at DeepSeek, let's ask Larry and Mary one question.
Okay. I'm ready. Which
Or ag request, actually.
Oh, go for it.
Yes, can you tell us a joke about cheap AIs?
A joke about cheap AIs. Okay, let me think.
This is the new one, but I'm curious to hear it.
All right, so why did the cheap AI cross the road?
I'm all ears.
To prove it could do it for less compute.
I like it. Little meta, very on brand for today's topic.
Right. Okay, so as...
Okay.
That is what you call AI humor. Not funny, but it was definitely unique.
Yeah. He tells a joke about cheap AIs. That being the story of the day, you know?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. We have found that there seem to be way more black holes than ever in the universe.
But who's counting?
Oh. Astronomers have found not just hundreds, but maybe billions or even trillions more than we thought. But who's counting? Right.
Right.
Well, we're trying to.
How are they finding them? They're looking at old data.
Yes, infrared data.
Infrared data from the
Infrared data.
70s.
Peering back into the infrared range. Yeah, the New Star X-ray telescope.
IRAS.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the
IRAS.
IRAS. Right.
Archival data from IRAS.
The infrared scope something. Oh, and the new one is called
New Star.
New Star.
Right.
And that's a ground-based telescope of visible light infrared.
Ground-based? No, that's a space telescope.
New Star?
New Star. Right. Looks like it's...
Ground-based visible light telescopes and New Star.
And New Star. Ground-based visible light telescopes and New Star. See, New Star looks like it's on its way to Jupiter. It looks like the ship in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Wow. Yeah, it does look pretty cool.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So it's a combination of the two. It isn't ground-based. It works with ground-based systems.
Uh-huh.
But for some reason, there are vast quantities of these black holes up there that we're discovering. Why are there so many black holes in space is the big question, and so many different sizes. They seem to be more and more fundamental in our understanding of how the universe works and why it even exists. Fascinating. More black holes brings up the idea that maybe there might be micro black holes that could exist within us as well as outside of us.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing up some of the ideas of Nassim Haramein.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And how black holes are ubiquitous in many ways.
Sure. Yeah, there's a black hole in the center of the tiniest plank of energy in quantum theory, according to Nassim.
So that's the smallest of the small.
Yeah. Yeah, they're fundamental.
So it's more about, I guess, states of matter than it is about objects at that point.
Yes. They are theoretical, and we're still trying to learn about their nature.
Or before matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I think it forces us to really think outside of the box when it comes to understanding matter and energy. And
these could be an explanation for dark matter, actually, because when these galaxies are spinning, they should be spinning out, and these stars should just be attracted out. And there's some kind of dark energy that's holding them, dark matter that's holding them together in the galaxy and allow it to spin the way it does.
You mean slowing the expansion?
Yeah, because these galaxies should, if there's not this dark matter that in gravity,
they'd go a lot faster.
Things together, these stars should actually spin out and not circle the galaxy the way it does presently.
So something's controlling their speed of expansion or growing out.
Yeah, they called it dark matter.
Yeah. And how does it do that exactly? How is it able to stop the expansion of matter itself? It must be some...
I asked Grok to tell me a little bit about black holes so I could really have a better depth of understanding.
Yeah.
Since I know they're sort of a fringy area of universe physics and explanations.
And
right?
what did you get out of it?
Well, the theory of black holes has only been around since the late 18th century.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of physicists named John Mitchell and Pierre-Simon Laplace independently proposed the idea of dark stars. And dark stars are objects that are so massive that not even light could escape, right? So that beginning of trying to,
What is it about it that got your attention?
Well, for instance, these dark stars are theoretically responsible for collapsing all of the space dust in an area into a dense body so that the explosion that causes the expansion of the universe theoretically is balanced by something that is actually kind of collecting it and making it dense, right?
So actually, how would you say gravity is around a black hole? Do you think it's very dense? They have strong gravity, would you say?
They do have extremely strong gravity.
Okay. So wouldn't it then make sense if you have a small black hole, you could have extreme anti-gravity? Small black holes,
That's interesting. Maybe you should ask Grok.
Well, yes. If you have massive gravity, can you have massive anti-gravity? Is the sci-fi leap there?
Well, in the 1970s, Stephen Hawking...
matter to antimatter.
Stephen Hawking described black holes and proposed this thing called Hawking radiation.
Uh-huh.
And that was the idea that black holes could emit radiation. And that's the light that actually makes it beyond the event horizon. So it's not the light that gets sucked into the black hole. It's the light that is just beyond the reach of the gravity of the black hole. And that emitting radiation, that led to all of the new developments in studying quantum fields and the quantum effects at the event horizon. So black holes are very important in the study of our quantum theory of physics.
They're fundamental for quantum. I was thinking of the connection with gravity.
Well, that was a connection with gravity. Gravity is the radiation that emits outside of a black hole.
That's a radiation.
The gravity in the center of the black hole collapses it towards the center, but the event horizon is the edge where the gravity stops. And outside of that is the radiation that looks like light and that allows us to identify the black holes. Right?
Oh, I see. So at the event horizon, if you're outside of it, you're going to feel this wave of energy that's coming outwards.
You'll see it. It's photons. It's light that is escaping the black hole. It's light that is not caught into the gravity that's drawing it towards the center. So the event horizon defines the edge of the black hole. It's where the light can escape.
Would that work with micro black holes too?
I suppose it's, you got to crunch the numbers.
Hundreds, if not billions, of hidden black holes in the galaxy. My dear.
Fascinating to think about.
It is.
We weren't there at the beginning of the universe.
Yeah, right.
Trying to theoretically reconstruct it just with our brilliant minds.
Keep an eye on YouTube movies coming out about NASA's new X-plane.
Okay.
Because it's about to make history.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do we know
It's called
about
the X-59.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new experimental aircraft made by the scientists at NASA.
Okay.
And the idea that they were trying to achieve with it is to create a supersonic plane that can go twice the speed of sound or more, but barely audible thumps as it goes through the sound barrier. Barely audible.
A quiet
thump.
Supersonic plane, huh?
Yeah, so you want quiet super fast planes, don't you?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay.
They call it, as a matter of fact, Quiet Supersonic Technology Division. Or mission. Excuse me. NASA's Quiet Supersonic Technology Mission. X-59.
Do you remember when we were kids, we would hear these sonic booms?
All the time. Yeah, I sure do.
I haven't heard any in years.
I hadn't heard one since this asshole went over Burning Man and made a sonic boom at 7 a.m. That really pissed me off.
I think if you listen to some of the feeds around some of the space missions, you hear sonic booms.
Yeah.
There is a moment when it crosses the sound barrier.
Yeah. Kudos to NASA for this. If they can do a super quiet airplane that can go super fast and fuel efficient, of course, that's the thing.
It's surprising that that's in NASA's bailiwick to do a supersonic airplane.
It's experimental. Their thing is really to do prototypes and experiments along these lines. But if you could go to LA to New York in just 2.5 hours, that would be cool for a regular price. I mean, the Concorde did that back in turn of the century, but it was too expensive. It was like $5,000 or more. Right? Remember that?
Well, don't you think this is going to be pretty expensive?
Well,
it doesn't
ideally.
sound like this is a bargain.
Well, they say it's going to be a lot
They
cheaper.
wouldn't allow the Concorde to go across the country because there would be a sonic boom all the way across the country.
Right. It was too expensive and it wasn't allowed to go across the country. Those two reasons were why the plane was not commercially successful. Couldn't legally fly over land,
So if they can solve this sound barrier problem, then they may be able to revisit those super fast flights.
Yes, and also they claim to have good fuel savings on it. So that will be key too. They're going to be running afterburner engine tests to see how fast you can go. Right now they're aiming for 925 miles an hour at 55,000 feet. No one should be able to hear it.
Well, that'll be fascinating.
Yeah. X-59, keep an eye open for that.
Okay.
The National Archives is looking for people.
And in
United
fact,
States-
the National Archives is where you should be able to go and look up the newly declassified JFK papers and RFK Jr. papers and Martin Luther King. All of these are
there was
published in the National Archives.
And just this hour, there was also breaking news. Breaking
really?
news.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
About that?
Yeah, there was a press conference today in the White House.
Okay.
And the White House press secretary said something about the mystery drones over New Jersey.
Oh, go. All right.
Yeah.
So Caroline Leavitt, huh? She's the new White House press secretary.
That's right.
And what'd she say?
She says that these drones were actually authorized to fly by the FAA. This was just in the first press briefing of Trump's second administration.
Oh, that's why they said that there were no laws being broken. They're authorized. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So,
right.
So that brings in some of the scenarios that Alex Jones was talking about and others about these were official drones and they were looking for something.
Mm-hmm.
One of the stories was that they were looking for stolen nukes.
Okay.
Nukes taken from the Ukraine.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, apparently there were like 80 of them that disappeared after the wall collapsed in 1990. And they've been secreted to various groups that have access to them. And supposedly one made its way to New Jersey. So they didn't say anything about that particular reason why, but they did say that the drones were authorized to be being flown by the FAA.
Okay.
And that there were lots of them, but they also say there were lots of hobbyists and recreational and private individuals flying as well, as if it's all the same. They said it was us, not the enemy. It ties into other stories that there were stories about Chinese drones being flown from Chinese submarines in the Atlantic because they were coming in from over the ocean. And also in that topic, there's also some information from Danny Sheehan saying that there's some groups that the drones that they were tracking were definitely not behaving like anything that we have within our arsenal of drones, and that it was for sure a non-human intelligence device of some sort. He has a major piece on that in his newsletter this week about the drones that just didn't fit the description of what a drone should be.
But they're ours?
They're not ours in that case. Danny Sheehan would go to disagree with it, but the Trump press conference says they were ours.
Okay.
Apparently model. So I'm saying Danny probably wouldn't agree with that. That not all of them were, but probably some of them were.
Okay.
Okay, so
Sounds like the mystery's still pretty thick.
it's still going, yeah. He shares some information on the drones. No, we'll see if he shows all the information. Also, I'd like to know if they were American military drones, were they on a mission? What were they looking for? Were any of these tales we've heard true? That's what I'd like to know. If they
So
authorized
they say
by
they're
who?
authorized by the FAA,
And
but
not
they
the
don't
enemy.
say why.
They're authorized. That's right. They're authorized by the FAA, but they're not the enemy.
Okay.
Whatever that means. That's about it.
Okay. The FAA gave
Yeah.
them permission, even though the FAA wasn't authorized to give them permission
That's
because they're
right.
not
Yeah.
ours.
That's it.
That's ridiculous.
Ridiculous, I say.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I'm just
So anyway,
dumbfounded.
back to the
Citizen Archives.
This
National Archives.
Now this thing, some of you folks, how are you at being able to read cursive writing?
Oh boy.
Actual handwriting.
It's very difficult.
Very hard?
It's slow going.
How about you, Bobby? Any good at that?
I'm pretty good at reading
cursive writing.
Katya, when she was teaching, realized that most students these days do not write cursive. They just write
printing.
They don't write cursive at all. They don't know
Yes.
how to read it or write it. Yeah, they're not required.
Yeah, I think they dropped the requirement in schools many years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
How about signing your name? Even,
Yeah, I sign my name cursive. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, the archive are looking for help in transcribing files from the Revolutionary War.
Because the cursive writing is not readable.
Because
The
people don't know
AIs
how to
can't
them
read the
anymore.
cursive.
and specifically, they're interested in military pension files.
Mhm.
Military pension files.
Okay.
In celebration of the 250th anniversary coming up for the country.
1776,
the National Archives
2026.
and the National Park Service are collaborating on a project to transcribe the case files of pension and bounty land warrant applications based on Revolutionary War service.
Okay, so they're going to try
Interesting,
and
huh?
track down some family members after 250 years.
Yeah, they're looking at these files that somehow pertain to claims for pensions.
I had to look up these censuses. That was the 1890 census and the 1900 census to see my father. And yes, their cursive writing back then was a little difficult, but what you could do is you look at the whole page and you realize that whatever letters they were using, cursive letters, they would repeat over, and then you figure out, oh yes, that's an F in
Yeah, S's and F's look a lot alike in that script, I've
Yeah,
noticed.
that's right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And P's and G's, I think, are kind of both of them are a little hard to figure out, but they look a little similar to each other. Capitals.
Q's also. Yeah.
And Q's. Watch your P's and Q's.
Yes.
Gee.
And how do they reward you for helping them with this? Well, you can do something fun like print out a Revolutionary War bingo card as you transcribe these fascinating pension records.
AI would be perfect at this. I don't know why they haven't figured out a way for AI to figure this out.
I have something for humans to do.
I don't know. On Ancestry, those census records that you're talking about,
Yeah.
a lot of them are transcribed, and you can get them in typed form.
That's right.
Yeah.
But when you actually look at the actual record, I just had to double check, and it was a little difficult. Yeah, I had to make sure they matched up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in Citizen Archivist, go to our links page at drfutureshow.com/links.
Or go to the National Archives
go to
at
the National
archives.gov.
Archives.gov, yes, and Citizen Archivists. And you can see what missions are available and see if you want to go in any of them.
Mm-hmm. And you can look up some interesting archives.
That's right. Breaking news, thanks, Gabs, an article on how Kansas is in the middle of an unprecedented tuberculosis outbreak.
What? Tuberculosis? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. in the
Like
middle of
lung disease.
be alarmed to hear about this.
Yeah.
Of course, in
Let's not
Wyandotte
go to
County,
Kansas.
epicenter of the largest recorded TB outbreak in U.S. history, going on right now.
Really?
Unprecedented, apparently. How many, though? 79 latent infections, 67 active infections. 60 have been identified in one county alone, Wyandotte County, 7 in Johnson County. Uh-huh.
And how do you treat TB? It's a bacterial lung infection?
Yes, I think it's also a virus associated with it too, but it's definitely a bacterium. So they were treating it with antibiotics, from what I heard.
Oh.
there's a viral content to it too.
Wow.
They say typically 95% of the cases happen in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So now this is a breakout in America. So anyway, the breaking news. Just thought you'd like to know. Thanks, Cabs.
Okay.
And leaving on a high note. One high note that's worth mentioning, we have a friend who's on the show, Dr. Steven Sidoroff. He was not able to go home for a while because of the LA fires. He lives in Topanga. He finally got home after not being there for a couple of weeks. And he wrote an article in Psychology Today about his experiences.
Oh, wow.
He'd written a book called The 9 Pillars of Resilience. Well, naturally, the article is called Resilience in the Face of Disaster.
Oh, man. Steve, what a hero. Good for you.
And about the good ways to look through a crisis, how to work with your feelings as you move through a crisis.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I've been very moved by some of the YouTubes that we've been watching of some of the people who've had to endure that.
Yeah.
It's very emotional to
see
so
everything
many
you have.
people who've lost so much.
Yeah.
So, Steve.
He was spared in this case. He lived in Topanga, but he had just arrived at the airport and on his way home, and he couldn't go home because the roads had been closed at Topanga. And so he had to figure out what to do. And that's just what his article in Psychology Today this week is, also on our links page.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about self-compassion and allowing yourself to experience the feelings as they come up. That's his pillar number 6 on emotional balance and mastery. That in times of a crisis can be overwhelming.
Mm.
And
in our last minute here.
This came in.
Yeah, it's got a little.
I just wanted to announce that there's going to be removal of the IRS, and it's going to be called the ERS, and it's
The External Revenue Service. Yes,
Yeah.
Trump did make that point in his inauguration speech. That was fascinating.
So potentially we won't be paying any money to the IRS, and in fact,
the government will be making money for us.
that's right. And they'll be paying.
They'll be paying us to be citizens.
Expenditures will be.
All right,
paid
let's
by-
go to
I like
show
that.
to this next time. And then we also have a request from Billy Sunshine to mention that we're going to invite Jordan Gruber onto our show on February 11th and talk about his newly completed book with Jim Fadiman on microdosing.
The book on microdosing.
Yeah, so that should be really cool. And people, it's been quite a fascinating week. Hope your future now is going to be fantastic and that you feel good.
Yeah. Fasten your force field. Get ready.
Yes.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Bobby, for your being there. Despite the kicking through the cold.
Yes, just getting over it.
That's
All right.
great. And
Thanks,
Mr.
everybody.
Drew,
Lots of love.
love you all.
Bye.
Bye
See
for
you
now.
next week.